Hello everyone, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to another episode of the Haftarah Drop. I'm Rabbi Michael Shields, Associate Rabbi here at Temple Sinai. This week's Haftarah, and I say it every week, is phenomenal. We have Ezekiel, chapter 28, starting with chapter 28, verse 25. And we get a Haftarah truth that maybe we don't expect or we don't realize is the full truth. God doesn't just redeem Israel. God confronts empires. In the portion for this week in Torah, we meet Pharaoh, who's hard-hearted, self-deified, certain that power belongs to him. In the Haftarah, the prophet Ezekiel pulls the curtain back even further and says, Pharaoh isn't unique. He's a pattern. Ezekiel addresses Egypt directly, and listen to the language that the prophet uses. Behold, I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon who lies in the Nile, who says the Nile is mine, I made it myself. That line alone should stop us cold. The moment power claims it created itself, prophecy shows up. Pharaoh doesn't just rule Egypt. He mythologizes himself. The Nile wasn't just a river, it was Egypt's lifeline, economy, Egypt's god symbol. And Pharaoh, what does he say? He says, I made this. And Judaism responds, Ezekiel responds with a radical counterclaim. You didn't make yourself, and the world doesn't belong to you. In the Torah, God sends plagues that dismantle Egypt's spiritual confidence. In Ezekiel, God dismantles Egypt's political arrogance. Ezekiel predicts Egypt's downfall not as revenge, but as revelation. Then they shall know that I am Adonai. The line appears again and again. Judgment in the Bible isn't about punishment, it's about clarity. The goal isn't humiliation, the goal is truth. The Talmud teaches where there is arrogance, the Holy One says, I and that person cannot dwell together, in Sota 5a. Pride functions to crowd out God. Empires fall not because they're strong, but because they forget they're not ultimate. But Ezekiel doesn't stop with Egypt. Suddenly the tone shifts in the Haftarah. On that day I will cause a horn to sprout for the house of Israel, and they shall know that I am Adonai. When false power collapses, real hope becomes visible. The prophet reminds Israel, you may feel small. You may feel exiled. You may feel crushed between empires. But history doesn't belong to Pharaoh. And by the way, history doesn't belong to the pharaohs of our day. History belongs to God. And therefore, redemption, hope, is always possible. The Midrash teaches that Israel's strength is not military dominance, but moral endurance. Not the clenched fist, but the stubborn soul. Our Haftarah refuses to stay ancient. It speaks to us in every age that worships power, wealth, control, or self-made mythologies. And it speaks to every people who feel unseen while standing under those shadows. Empires declare themselves eternal. Judaism calls them temporary. From Egypt to Babylon to Rome, every empire says, we are the Nile. Judaism replies, the Nile flows and God remains. Ezekiel doesn't promise quick redemption. Egypt falls slowly. Israel rises gradually. But the message is unshakable. Power that forgets God eventually collapses under its own weight. And faith that refuses to surrender its soul, that faith survives. The faith sprouts horns of strength. The faith outlives Pharaoh. We see that in the people Israel. We see that in us. We see that in the state of Israel. That faith refuses to surrender its soul. Israel refuses to surrender its soul, facing all of the obstacles that it faces, all of the enemies who seek to destroy it, all of the pharaohs who declare themselves God, who create mythologies around themselves in the hopes that it will destroy those around them. But we have to remember, the world belongs not to those who claim divinity or ultimate power, but to those who remember they are not God. They are simply partners in creating goodness and peace and acting out God's attributes in the world. Shabbat Shalom.